What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. All you sneakerheads need to listen up. Mario Mason, Shot Doc, is on the podcast this week. He talks about the entire process from switching manufacturers to going through the painstaking detail of each shoe and how he got to get Sebastian Rivera to wear his shoes in the Olympics this past cycle. All that and more coming up on the Athletor Podcast. Don't go nowhere, dude.
Hey, everyone knows that wrestling is 90% mental. We're super excited to have partnered with Wrestling Mindset, the #1 wrestling specific mindset program in the world. Make sure to sign up at wrestlingmindset.com using promo code Athletor25 for a $500 discount. Stop underperforming and losing to guys that you should beat.
It's the Athletor Podcast. Mario Mason, thank you very much for sitting down with us for a little bit. Dude, I have been really wanting to pick your brain about a lot of things, but let's start off here. You and I go way back. I mean, I can remember when you were super dugging people in the Fargo finals back in right back in the day, and to see you kind of take what you've learned and in wrestling and turn it into what I think is a pretty successful business model with Shot Doc. Talk to me a little bit about how you even started this thing. So, for those of you that don't know, Shot Doc is a brand of shoes that Mario and Kyle started a couple years back, and you guys are doing it differently. And I say that very deliberately, right? Because a lot of people that have tried to start shoe lines have failed, like a lot. You know, it's not easy. The line of work is not easy, bro. So tell me how this whole thing came about.
Well, the first things first, I just thought I was going to be an Olympic champ, and those dreams kind of set sail quite a while ago. And but I just felt like, hey, I was going to have a shoe, and it's going to have my name on it, and it was just like kind of at that point after my career concluded was like a pipe dream, just something cool that I thought could happen. And that just went on the shelf. I'd thought about it myself, but just never really got into the space. Then you see guys like Wrestle Boutique and some of these other small brands pop up. Obviously, they're pretty cool in the space, but a lot of other ones like Up and Down, kind of in and out. And Kyle Brewer, if you guys don't know him, but he's one of the partners as well. Him and his brother came to me one day, and it was really Kyle at a wrestling practice, and they had been doing business in China. And they were like, hey, we've been trying to make a shoe, and we were in China working. We were trying to, just like see factories and see if we could figure out how to manufacture. And they were just like, we haven't had much success on it. I don't know if they were like really digging into it, but I know they had some pictures of shoes and stuff they were trying to think about. And Kyle one day was just like, dude, would you want to make a shoe with us? And immediately, yeah, of course, that'd be awesome. Like, who doesn't want to have their own shoe? Me being a wrestling shoe person, I went from, my wrestling career dwindling and just like running club and all those kind of things. And I was like, well, I'm going to start buying wrestling shoes. So I was doing that whole buy, sell, trade, all that stuff. And so he's like, all right, well, the other kicker is he's like, we kind of want to use your social media tag name type, Instagram handle for the name of the shoes. So I said yes immediately. And then I'm like driving home that day and I'm like, well, that's good. It's a good name, but like now people are just gonna directly relate. If my shoes suck, it's gonna be like, man, Mario, the Shot Doc, his shoes suck. Like one of those things. But it just had a good ring to it. And I don't even know how the Shot Doc, like my actual Instagram, that came from a picture that Nick Incontrera made like an edit when, I don't know, when he was a kid, maybe 10 or 11 years old. He just made something. It was a picture of me in it was like a Rutgers uniform. It had Rutgers stuff in the background, and it just said the shot doc or like the shot doctor or something. And that's just kind of how that all came about. And then Kyle asked me about the shoes, and we ran with the name. And we just wanted to do it a little bit different. We wanted to try and like we didn't want to like gather athletes, and obviously as a new company, you can't just pay a bunch of people to be like ambassadors and all that stuff. But we did a couple of years where we were manufacturing in Mexico, China, Mexico, like just kind of going back and forth, figuring out some stuff. And then we started reaching out to guys like you, people we knew, people that are shoe guys, and just said, hey, do you want a pair of shoes? Like, I don't know if you had a brand, or most club owners, most club coaches, nobody's ever asked them if they wanted to have a shoe, or like, just like, hey, you want a free pair of shoes? Nobody does that anymore.
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at AthletorLive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
And the time has passed as an athlete where you're getting free gear all the time, other than like,
it doesn't happen as much anymore.
other than like shirts or like, crew necks, I'm sure you get when you from college teams and stuff like that, but not like shoes. And that was kind of how it all started out, and we're moving in the right direction, I believe. And it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Just hoping we can make some strategic partnerships, and keep going.
Hold on now. I think you're blowing past a whole bunch, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, you are blowing okay, first of all, so he's got contacts in China. What do those emails look like? What is that even? How do you even go? So what I try to do here, like Joel and I, is dig into the processes, right? We talk to wrestling coaches all the time, and some of the processes differ a little bit, but this is completely different, dude. Like, I was so stoked to have Greg Warren on the podcast because he's a comedian, and the process is different, and it's still wrestling generated, right? It's still like it's this wrestling work till you drop mindset is always kind of in the back of your head, and that's the driving force. But the steps along the way, well, they're going to look a lot different for a shoe manufacturer, for a stand-up comedian, and that kind of stuff. So how do you get past things like, no, this design sucks, or no, this, like, how, like, they're not very forthcoming with samples, I can tell you that much. They don't love to give samples out, right? So, how did you deal with all that stuff in the beginning?
So if we're talking about wrestling, I went right to the wrestling shoe pipeline that I already knew. So if you're not familiar with wrestling shoes, there's this incredible, I know you are, but just in general, there's this incredible underground market at the time. And it was on Flickr. It was there was millions, or not millions, thousands of shoes. And you could get shoes from 1988, brand new in the box. Beautiful Adidas shoes. So this market like spurred, and people started spending thousands of dollars on single pairs of shoes. So from that, I met a couple key players, I would say, in that space, who I still speak to today. And those guys had already been trying to figure out how to get shoes made. Some of the guys already had manufacturers but didn't have any money to do it. Some of them just like were designing, like they were like, hey, we can help you design stuff if you want that help. And me being a shoe guy, like I mean, I have a bunch of not hundreds or anything, but some really nice shoes in the vault. And I just started looking at shoes. I was like, all right, I think I know what I'd want to build out, but let me try to figure out a manufacturer. So that was the next piece. And there was a couple that I was asked or that was told about, and then I started asking about. The one we ended up with first was in China, and we're actually using them a little bit now too. But the China one, it's you start reaching out at 8, 9 o'clock, and if you're going through stuff, you're kind of doing stuff through the night. Hopefully, you can sleep a couple hours and wake up and like finish the conversation. Generally, how it goes, and that's really how it was. And the best part about it is I didn't really have to ask people if they liked my shoes. It wasn't like we had a whole team. It was just Kyle and Evan was just more. He was like, whatever you guys think is the best on the shoe side, and we'd get run through things. And the first couple shoes, like I drew it up on paper. Like I didn't have any. We didn't have AI working for us. I didn't have anything on my laptop. I wasn't using any kind of software. I have friends that help me now, like do some software and make the prints a little bit easier to look at when we're trying to figure out some colors and all that. But it was just a piece of paper, and we just drew up a shoe that was like resemblant of an actual shoe, side view of it, heel view of it, whatever, the sole, and we just drew it up. I literally sent China the pictures that I drew with lines on it, and like, this is leather, this is mesh. I want this logo here. We want this sock. It's got to be a neoprene type sock. Send him pictures of old shoes. I sent him the Addy Stars, which I know you love too. The white Addy Stars. I sent him a picture of them. Like, I kind of want it this kind of shape. But we want to put
They're
like the sock.
similar in shape. Your shoes are very similar in shape. One of the reasons I love them so much is because they fit like the Kendalls do, right? Like they
Oh yeah.
fit like the Kendalls. Like that's one of the like. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I could go off
No.
on it. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, they fit like the Kendall, and then I was like, well, but I also like the Gable Ultraflexes. So I was like,
Yeah.
let's put the Gable Ultraflex in the Kendall, and then make our sole a little bit different. And as a coach like you are, I haven't tied my shoes in I don't know
Never.
how many years.
Never. Not a chance. Not
You
a
posted
chance.
something, you messaged somebody on their shoe. I forget, it was something on Instagram, but it's perfect because the sock keeps my foot in. I don't have to tie my shoes. I can just like let them hang like normal. And I mean, they just come out. They came out good. We did a decent
Yeah.
job on them, and but that's not the end of the story, right? So
Right.
we started doing some samples, and then like one time we had asked for like 7 samples, so like we did different
Right.
colors, and we hadn't ordered anything, and one time the samples came and there was just one shoe and half of the sole was missing on one, and we were like, whoa. We're like, I don't know if we should produce here. So again, through the pipeline of wrestling people, had a buddy call me, and he was like, hey, I got this guy who, he's out of Philly. He works with a manufacturing in Mexico. He's made shoes for like Fergie and like Steve Madden. He's just a cobbler in a little shop somehow in Philly. And
Okay.
we started working with him a little bit, and his products were like the craftsmanship, which you've had the pink ones,
Yeah.
the blue ones, so like all the original ones. You've had pretty much all of those. They were all the craftsmanship of the Mexico manufacturer, and they're beautiful. The shoes are
Mhm.
beautiful. We've actually gone through processes of like adding mesh so they're not ripping as much, and they got to be stitched a certain way so it doesn't go through the sole, like little things like that. But we just have learned along the way, and we're back in China, but we got some tariffs happening, so we might have to bounce. We'll see. It should be okay for now, but I mean that's like the long short version of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you get the sole with half a, or the shoe with half a sole,
Yeah.
how quickly you got to pivot? Like, oh shit, this isn't gonna work, dude. Like, do you call the guy or do you like, what do you say then?
We reached out and we were just like, hey, did something happen? Like, why is there only one? So what they started doing is they were sending like one shoe instead of like the pair.
Hmm.
So they would send like one because we asked for a couple samples, and then this one showed up. I don't even know what happened. to be honest, it was a long time ago at this point. I think we just said, all right, well, we'll come back to you when we want to place a big order. And we shifted everything over to Mexico at that time. And,
Right.
but we actually have come back to this little manufacturer too, and they've been really good ones, which we're not allowed to say theirs because theirs is
Right.
trademarked.
Right.
You could just cut that out, but they're so the black and red, the shoes that we had, that they're still super, they're really nice. They're from China, and yeah, that's the process so far. Have some ideas about
So,
expanding, but
well, hold on. Let's not get there yet, because one of the things that I've noticed, and like let's take Rudis for example. Their first line of shoes did not go well,
no.
and I'm being kind because I like Jesse a lot. They didn't go well. They nearly bankrupt themselves trying to do that. From what I understand, now I could be wrong, but they nearly sunk a lot of money into this, and it almost didn't work out. Now they're doing just fine now, but what type of marketing decisions were made between you and Kyle to keep this boutique? What kind of conversations were had to go, look, we could drop 7 figures on this pretty easily. Pretty easily, you could drop 7 figures on it. But what if it doesn't work like the way we want it to, right? Or what if it doesn't make the splash that we want it to? Now all of a sudden, you're $1 million in the hole, and you got a whole lot of nothing to show for it. So what type of conversations were had going, all right, here's how we're going to approach the marketing angle of it?
That is a simple answer. We looked at Wrestle Boutique and we said,
Yeah.
they're literally the only one doing it. They're the only one in town who is looking at it from a boutique standpoint. And then you hear, like you said, Rudis. I heard Rudis was like 30 million in the hole, something crazy. I don't know what's accurate, what's not.
It was a lot.
And
It was a
the
lot.
first the first conversation is like, well, that's not going to be us. And
Yeah.
we don't really want. I had a buddy who, you probably know who that, just Jersey people, but he was like, yeah, if you need money, no problem, we'll figure it out. And we just decided we didn't want to have a backer either, so that left us no choice but to go a route where we could finance it ourselves. And it wasn't anything crazy, but a couple thousand, maybe a little more, but it's just that was
Don't give me the what you tell your wife shit. Give me the real shit. That's just a couple grand. No big deal. No big
yeah,
deal.
just a couple. We'll be okay. No one has to know. But it's it really wasn't that much. It's like it's not a substantial number that would run you dry. Like if you went in the hole, it would take the three of us a couple months maybe to be like, all right, we're good. And I'm saying maybe a couple, maybe just a month of private lessons and Evan kicking in a couple bucks. Nothing wild.
Right.
And yeah, we just decided that was the way. But the other beautiful side of that is, why do you want inventory? You don't want inventory. That's the killer in all markets. It's like if you have to sit on something, and then you have all these like Supreme's just doing a drop. So there's an ability to build hype for something and then shut it down. It doesn't have to be 365 days a year. It's like 6 weeks. It could be 5, 6 weeks. You build, do some giveaways, do some things, and you're able to just sell some shoes. So we started with this little bit smaller batch, and then we gradually went up. And then I was in the Rutgers room.
When you say smaller batch, you're saying like 100, right?
Yeah. Yep. 100, 120.
That's about it.
Yep.
And so do they bust your balls about like only buying 100 at a clip?
No. Well, that was the thing. The manufacturer we got didn't mind that. That was the biggest deal. So most places you go to, it's like 500 minimums
Right.
per color. So if you
Right.
change the color or that kind of stuff, and it was just like I went to a buddy who knew a couple of the manufacturers. I said we don't want to do a lot, and he was like, all right, this is the best one. They do pretty good work. It's not that difficult to work through them, other than you just have to talk some late night sometime. But that's
Sure.
that is what it is. So that was easy. That was the easy part with them. And if we do more, you just get a bigger price break. But since it's
Sure.
boutique, you can charge a premium.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. What does the layman not know about this process? Like for example, like when I started talking to some people about this, and I talked to the folks at Roost, they're like, "Do you know how much it costs per size? Like per size, like just to make them." I'm like, "What? I never thought of it. It's just something I didn't consider. It just hadn't dawned on me, right?" So what do we not know about this process?
There's a couple small things. If you want to make a shoe, like you said, per size, there is an upfront cost because you have to get a mold for that
Hmm.
size. And then they actually have to shape the shoe to go around it for that size. So it's like a cost and a cost. And then if you want to do
Hmm.
half sizes, there's some tricks that you learn along the way. You can get uh combats, for instance. If you look closely at a combat, I don't know exactly the sizes, but like an 11 and a 12, if you actually match up the sole size, it'll be the same. They just use more material in between. Right? But if you don't
Really
know that and you go to China and go, "Hey, I need sizes 1 through 12." You have to get 12 individual
each.
molds. But if you know and go, oh, but can I use my molds for 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3, or the 3 and 4 and 5?
Right.
You can half your cost. And just like little things like that, where if you go through that process, you start to understand. Okay, we can not cut corners because it's not cutting corners. It's a way to
No.
be able to be in the game.
Yeah, it's a
And
way to be a little bit more intelligent about your upfront costs.
yeah, and Adidas is one of the biggest wrestling shoe companies and has been over the years. So I feel like we were doing all right. Again, copying something we had seen and just asking the question. So little stuff like that was important to start understanding, and really just trying to figure out what the direction you want to go with kids. Do you want to go bigger sizes? Do you want to go smaller sizes? Does a 7-year old's parent want to pay $150+ for a shoe that they're going to grow out of in a month? Probably not.
Yeah,
So it's just like
right.
that. So the boutique model, you look at Wrestle Boutique and go, all right, they were using these sizes. Well, let's start maybe with a couple less. We'll do one bigger and two smaller. So we have a couple, see how they go. And we just started playing that game, and like I said, we started sending them out to guys like you and Cliff and Izzy and Jake Elkins at Ironclad, and just buddies, Levi, Levi Jones. So I just have a bunch of friends in the space and just started messing around with what it would look like to grassroots market versus have it really market its like actually pay and do some marketing channels, which we know that we have to go that route a little bit more.
Eventually, yes, 100%. But to grow it, you seem to have made a lot of wise decisions. Um, what was your biggest screw up?
Biggest screw up was switching manufacturers, I think. Um,
Mm,
and that was only because we had to basically leave money on the table and then go to Mexico and repay the startup fees. But like we came back to the same one. They still had our stuff though, which was cool.
that's
So we were
cool.
able to, yeah, we didn't have to add too much, which was nice. But it was a good experience. And honestly, the guy that does the shoes for Mexico, he's a really good guy. He's helped us with like because he actually makes shoes. So we can ask him questions and be like, why do you think this is ripping? In China, it's just like, these are ripping, send us a new pair kind of thing.
Right.
And sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But he can give us like actual guides. Like, you need something on the back of this shoe. You need something on the bottom on this sole because the mesh will help things stick a little more. Like, just like little stuff like that. So he's been a very good contact. I wouldn't change it. It just cost us a couple extra bucks that we would have made, you know?
What was most important to you when you were making these shoes? Meaning, you brought up Wrestle Boutique. Have you had a pair of those?
No.
Okay, I have. They have not treated me all that well. Meaning, when I say that, just the shoes themselves, they just, if you're wrestling them every day, even if you're coaching, like ain't no chance of me wrestling every day, but you get what I'm saying, right? If they're your everyday shoes, they're going to get put through the ringer. And I think that, I forget the guy's name that was making those, but I think that was kind of the point. He wanted those to be your match shoes, right? What did you want? What was most important to you in designing the shoe? Because my son he steals them from me, Mario. I'm sure you know this.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
wait, this is a great story, Joel. You're gonna love this. So Kyle would send me shoes in a brown paper, like a brown paper casing, and it would say "Not for Jack." So, but anyway, he does steal a lot of them. He still has the pair of red and whites that I mean, they're still holding up strong. Like, he wears them a lot, right? I mean, they smell something awful. Like, you are not bringing those in the house. But the point is, though, that they held up over shit. I was still in Texas when he gave me those for sure. So it had to be 6 years, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, probably. Oh no, like maybe 4. Yeah, 4.
Okay,
I don't know. Maybe you
5 years.
might have just gotten out there. You might have just gotten out to California.
Okay.
Um,
Point being, though,
but so
was making a durable shoe important to you?
so yes and no. So
Uh-huh.
what is the life of a season? Let's call it 3 4 months in the
Mhm.
middle school. High school is 4 months. College is 5 months. And what we figure is, if you wear a shoe every day, if you run in a shoe every day, you run in a shoe
Mhm.
every day, you're getting road miles in it. Every couple months, you're going to need a new pair of shoes, just the way it goes. So we wanted them to last a couple months, but at the end of the day, they're wrestling shoes. They're going to get beat to death. And we
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that they would hold up enough. Like, for instance, the soles and the original ones, they never ripped. You know, we try to change some stuff. Sometimes they would rip when we change things up. Um, but like the soles never rip. So we're like, all right, if we can get the soles to never rip, that's huge. It's huge. If we can
Yeah,
just, so
huge.
now we just have to make sure the stitching stays in. And the beautiful thing about that was, when we were working, and we still do some shoes with Mexico as well right now, just as so we make sure we're not losing a good thing. But if the stitching came out, we then had this little trick. It's like, hey, oh, you messaged us, you emailed us. We had the best R&D ever. Oh, you guys, the shoes ripped. What happens? You send us a new one. You know, we don't have any more. They're sold out. But don't worry, we'll send you a label so it's free. Just send the shoes to this address and they'll get stitched back for you. If they need a new sole, because like maybe the inner lining of the sole ripped and that was part of the stitching, they'll put a new sole in for you. So basically, the guy in Philly, we'd send him the shoes. He'd restitch the whole thing, clean them up a little bit if he could, and send them back out. So we had like this
Right,
built-in customer service that if something happened, we can't send you a new one. We're not Rudis. There's none left, or
right.
maybe if there is, there's just not in your size, right? So we can't send you a
Yeah,
new one, but
happens.
look, we'll fix them for you. So that was like part of the initial branding was, if something did happen, we'll help you out, and you could talk to us, send us. So that actually turned out in our benefit, because you still have a product, and it's let's call it a 80-20% turnaround. Some are amazing. I've worn some of my own and they last forever. They still haven't ripped. And then I put on another pair and something tore right away when as soon as I had them on for one practice. And again, I'm like you at these days. I'm not wrestling anymore. My shoulders don't work. Um, and they just fell apart for whatever reason. Something happened with the stitching. So you just get that. And that's part of it. And Rudis was, because they blew up so fast, to go back to them, I think that they blew up so fast that I don't think they understood the ramifications of it. Like I've had one Rudis shoe. I got the original ones that came out,
Kyle Snyder's, yeah.
and within 3 practices, I was still training at Lehigh, so 3 hard practices, the middle of the sole ripped off right off the front. So I never grabbed another pair. And we're hoping that's just not the case with our stuff. It happens. There's lemons and everything.
Sure.
But Wrestle Boutique, I haven't worn them. I've heard okay reviews. I haven't heard terrible things. He's what he's doing in the space though is the best. He's the best at it. His marketing is clean. His websites, everything he's doing is very clean. And with marketing and clean stuff like that, it looks, even if it wasn't a good product, it looks so good and enticing that it's like that excitement to get something new. It's like that opening that package of Apple, and that's something I talk to Kyle all the time. I'm like, dude, we need to look. Our consumer wants to, like, the feel of opening that box, like that's part of the consumer perception of our brand.
Experience.
It's not just the
shoe.
No,
it's the experience for sure, 100%. And so that was a conversation too. Did Brewer just want to brass tack and just kind of send it in a manila folder?
I don't know. Maybe he's just sending you them in there. We are actively. I've been talking about getting this better, like a nice box with a magnet, different things like that. Again, everything comes with a cost. So, in the newer ones, actually in the red ones, they were Christmas. So I actually looked online and found like an RX prescription, and we hand wrote one, and then we photocopied them so they looked handwritten like that look, and we put them in the box with the shoes. Kyle just must have sent you the manila envelope for Jack.
No. It was that box. It was just wrapped in. It was wrapped in like no. It was that box. No, I got it, but it was wrapped in a bag. Looked like a shopping bag, like an old school paper bag. But yeah, okay. So I do got to get on a plane. So
At some
the
point.
one thing, yeah. The one thing that is interesting to me is I keep my ear to the ground. You guys are doing some cool stuff. Can you talk about some of the personalized shoes that you may have coming out? I know you can't speak about the Scarlet and
Yeah.
Black.
So we do have some college edition stuff. Again, I was in the Rutgers room, and Sebastian's shoes were literally Sebastian Rivera. For you guys who don't know, he is American, although he wrestles for Puerto Rico. And I was like, hey, man, Dean loves our shoes. Dean Peterson loved our shoes. We gave him a couple pairs. He would wear them all practice. Obviously, couldn't wear them until this year in matches, but he wore the crap out of them, loved them to death. So we gave him a couple pairs. Nini loved them. I gave Alex a couple pairs. Good kid. And one day Sebastian's working out. He's got his EXEOs. The back of the heels falling off of one. The other one is like, they just were beat. And they're white shoes, so they're dirty, like they're a white one. And I was just like, hey, look, I'm sure you get shoes from someone. That's all I said. I'm sure you get shoes from someone. I got an extra pair in my car. I don't know what size you are. They're 9s, and I just happen to have a pair. And I was like, if you want to try them out, Shot Doc's like, go ahead, and don't worry. Like, if you don't like them, just give them to somebody else. And he, if you know Sebastian, he just goes, I'm going to tell you exactly how it is on these shoes if they suck. And I was like, please do. Tell me what you don't like. So I go get him a pair. he puts them on. He wears them for practice. He says he likes them. Says they're comfortable. And I wasn't able to come back for like a month and a half. Just it was I don't know what happened. I just family, kids, life, and I popped back into practice, and he goes, "Yo, I haven't taken them off." And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I've worn them in every practice since you came in." He's like, "I haven't worn another pair of shoes. I love them." And at that point, I just was like, "Do you want a pair for the Olympics?" And he had already qualified, and he just
Yeah.
goes, "Yeah." And we just did an old guinea handshake, and we made a pair of shoes for him, and that
Yeah.
and we were able to get him samples. Again, that was a whole process of we got the shoes so late after. We needed them right after the Olympics, but we got them late. But they came out awesome, and they were the pictures of him like jumping into the
Amazing.
coach. Dude, it was like iconic, really awesome stuff. The pictures were incredible. We didn't even have to take them or be there, and it was that was just one of those things. I was there at the right place at the right time, and just asked if he wanted to wear something, and sure enough he did. So we made a little deal, and he makes some money off of it. And that's kind of what we thought. We were like, we can't pay athletes, but if we tell, hey, if you want to make a shoe with us, you can pretty much design it, and we'll give you a big cut. And that's not what companies are doing.
No,
So
no,
it's
that's pretty genius.
and yeah, so then we got some college stuff going on, but we'll see how that pans out. We're working into a couple things. Sebastian's got another shoe coming, and if you guys know any teams that are like Under Armour, we got some
Yeah.
D1 teams.
UA, right? Has to be UA. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
Under
Because
Armour
shoot.
stuff.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to our sprint, what shoe gave you the inspiration to start doing this? Is there one particular pair of shoes?
Definitely the Addy Stars, and they're
Mm-hmm.
a super popular old shoe. The white pearl Kendalls.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely gave me the inspiration, and really just as a wanting to have my own shoe as a kid. Like it was just like that. The ones I really liked when I was young, I don't know if you remember them. They were like orangish yellow, black, and they were the zip up Adidas.
Okay.
They might have been
Mhm.
they
John
were
Smith.
they were blue and gray. They had blue and gray ones.
Yeah.
They were the
Yeah.
zip up, and then
Mhm.
they had the next one
Mhm.
were the black and the yellowish.
Real short ankle on them.
Yes, I
Yeah. Yeah. I
love
know what you're
those.
talking about.
I love those.
Mhm.
And if you actually cut the laces off, they have a kind of a look similar to the Kendall, but like it was a different kind of mesh, material mesh setup. But it
Mhm.
was just like I remember wearing those shoes and be like, man, like those shoes specifically. I don't know why I remember like thinking about them. I was like, I'm gonna have my name on a pair of these. Like that was just like the thoughts in my head. So Adidas
Yeah.
shoes, just like
Yeah.
uh,
Old school Adidas are hard to beat, dude. Old school Adidas are hard to beat. Like they really are. Okay. I got one more. I need to do this. How much time do you spend designing the shoe?
when we're coming up with something, I draw up stuff, and then I have ideas in my head. It takes. I start waking up earlier, and not because I want to, just because I start waking up earlier. I start staying up later because my head starts spiraling a little bit. But that's how I always was about wrestling too, and business stuff. Like I woke up this morning and actually texted Kenya. I mean, it was like 5:30 my time, and I texted him like I was like, "Hey, I think this, and this about this business, blah 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 blah." Like, and I was like, "Sorry, long text. I know it's early for you, but like my brain's already spinning." So like, kind of that same
Mhm.
idea. But it doesn't take that long once I have an idea out because I source it to my buddy who will start drawing and send me a couple ideas. And I'm like, I like these lines, I don't like these lines. And then I'll take his design and I'll go, all right, I like this shoe and I like this design. And I give it to ChatGPT or like some AI and just see what they come up with. So it's just like meshing with
Mhm.
thifferent things, and then you just talk to some of your kids. You got enough wrestlers. I got enough wrestlers to be like, all right, this is cool. This isn't. What do you think? Colors. And so I have a lot of reference points that I can use. So but it's time consuming for a short amount of time, and then it's not just colors and stuff change for a while.
Okay, that makes sense. Joel Shaw, you got anything before we move along to our sprint?
Bring it home.
Bring it home. Man says bring it home. We're gonna bring it home. Okay. Don't think about this. Just answer what's the best wrestling shoe of all time.
I've already said the Kendall 5 times. So I'm just gonna say the 88s, and
Pinks?
I like the teals.
Okay. All right. Teal 88s. Hard to get those. Not easy to get those.
I got a brand new pair in the box sitting in my basement.
Do you really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's wild, dude. How much did you pay for them?
I got a deal on them, like probably like 9.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, jeez, the crow, my wife would shoot me. All right. Next
You
one.
didn't know.
Talking about all this business stuff, talking about is there a book that you could recommend to maybe not getting into the shoe space, but just a book of people starting a business that maybe want to start a boutique business?
To be honest with you, the boutique business has all been watching. I had not a book stuff that I could recommend. Obviously, you can go into for shoes like Shoe Dog, and that's a great book just about was it Nike, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, not a book on learning the business side, or that was all
Just got to figure something
observation,
out.
And just trying to see the trends of a market over the years. Less
Sure.
about actually investing time into some words.
The next question has to do with wrestling, not with shoes. The one thing we usually geek out about is wrestling.
Of course.
You only get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
John Smith, absolutely. JB.
Okay.
Americans is tough. I love the foreigners. I would put in recent times for me probably David Taylor. I think he's just been incredible over the years and longevity in his career.
Unbelievable.
Pretty special. Maybe not just purely success like Jordan Oliver. He's one of my friends for years, and he just a wizard. Just mentally,
Yes.
the game of wrestling, just special. Just has a special mind.
That. Is that his first time on the list, Joel? Yeah, first time Jo has made the list. That's good. That's a good one. Dude, people don't realize how much he impacted wrestling. And forget about any success that he had. Forget about it. Just his motion is some of the most beautiful motion you will ever see on a wrestling mat. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, no, it's just if you've been around him and you talk wrestling with him, you can go and you're similar to me. We've talked wrestling many times. You could just go for hours. You just go for hours. You could sit and go for hours and play and mess around with things. But again, that's from a personal relationship side.
Yeah, but that's important though, right? Like that stuff is important, right? Like those personal relationships that we've kind of built over the years, they impact, even if it's just you, which it's not, right? I mean, it isn't just you. Jo makes this world a better place. I would venture to say. But yeah, the dude at one of those flow events, he sat with my son on a wrestle mat and went over elbow control and I'm not exaggerating, at least an hour. He just went over elbow control with him for an hour. And I'm like, well, you're kind of learning from the best, He's like, my son didn't know. He's like 8, but here he is learning elbow control from Jordan Oliver. Yeah, he's a special dude for sure. Okay, last one.
Last one. I was trying to think about it, but
no, that was 4. No, you gave us 4, right? Didn't you give us 4?
3.
Oh, you gave us John Smith,
JB, John Smith,
Jordan Burroughs, David
Oh,
Taylor.
and David.
David
And
Taylor. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah.
I was gonna say Kendall too, because I loved Kendall's wrestling, and I just loved his approach to wrestling. I had never I'd spoken with him and I'd been around him, and I had never heard someone be vulnerable about
Yeah,
like being exhausted in a match. He's like,
yeah.
did you ever hear someone go, if I didn't get that takedown, I was probably going to quit and just give up at that point. I was just like, hold on. You said what,
Yeah.
coach? He was like, well, if I didn't get that chest lock, I was pretty much ready to break. Who even says stuff like that? It's always like being that tough guy, and it's like he would talk about that vulnerability of like, I needed to get certain things. I didn't have this strength. I had to be so technical because I wasn't the strongest guy. I had to figure out how to beat a grunt when I was just like a gangly, like just really, really different kind of wrestler. And he's another guy that you can sit and you grab him and he's like, all right, I ask him about something and he'll show it. And then he'll grab somebody else. And then he'll grab somebody else. And he'll grab like whoever else is around and be like, yeah, because like I can show you this, but Mike, you might have a little different feel. So I might adjust it and tweak it. Right. And Mario, you might
Mm,
have a little different. So he'll just be like, it's not going to be exactly the same. And like that kind of stuff makes my brain like tick. Like, oh, well, it's
mhm,
not cookie cutter. It has to be a little different.
mm,
Your brain has to think, you have to operate on a different level. And he was just one of those guys that opened my mind to, doesn't have to be all hard, doesn't have to be all crazy.
mhm,
We don't have to do,
mhm,
sometimes it's literally about how are we going to outthink our opponent before we even get there, before we're even on the mat,
mhm.
when all the stuff kicks in and you're in that flow state. And just an interesting, really interesting guy.
Yeah, you talk about the vulnerability too, dude. He sat down in front of my entire club, and I think I'm sure before he got there, we watched him against Gia in the finals,
Yep.
and so all the kids were familiar with it, and they saw him go inside trip for at the time it was three, and then go high gut for two more, and what was funny was he was like, yeah, I sucked in that position. Like I was not great in that. Like that two overs, not great there. Like I was a low single defensive kind of guy, but I was like, I'm gonna go. If I don't go, he's taking me over for three for sure. And then he gets a high gut, and he's like, guess what, kids? I ran away from him for the next 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and he
Yeah.
did, and he won an Olympic gold medal. And think about it, right? Like takedowns were only one, right? He's up 5-0, and he's a defensive dynamo. Like, good luck scoring on him, right? So
Oh
he would
yeah.
let him in on his
Gumby.
legs, scramble around for 30 seconds, and by next thing you know, maybe he gets a takedown, maybe he doesn't. But the point is, you just burned 45 seconds of clock, bud. Like it's almost time. So yeah, it's like his honesty and his vulnerability in those situations was really refreshing for me too as a coach. Like seeing him talk to these kids and go, "Yeah, I ran away from that dude. Have you seen him? He was a monster."
It was so eye opening, and
Yeah,
coming from like Buxton, Buxton just hard
yeah,
nosed,
yeah,
and a little not Iowa, but a little bit of that
yeah,
grind, a lot of bit
yeah.
of that grind with technique. Um,
Sure,
and it's just like it was crazy. It was a crazy thing. Yeah, it was. If I didn't get that, I might have broke. He was talking about the match with Brands when he chest locks him.
sure.
He's like, and
Yeah,
I got that chest lock, and I got that like bit of energy that got me through the match, so I could hold on to just sneak out the win. And I'm just like,
yeah,
man, you weren't trying to kill him, like you weren't just trying to tech him,
yeah.
like you go out like that. No, I had to beat him where I knew he wasn't good because he was gonna kill me if I went here. Like that. It's just it's crazy to think about,
I mean, it's
but
honest,
yeah.
and it resonates for sure. It resonates with people, man. Okay, last question. If you got a magic wand in your hand, you get to change one thing about the sport of wrestling, and it changes tomorrow. What is it?
You already know my answer.
It's gonna be freestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely freestyle. And the reason being is I just would like to see or the idea of like where we would be in the world. We're already, top 3, top 5, where we would be as a team every single year if we had never done any folk style. Like that's the way I look at it.
It's an interesting concept. That's the one that like we get that one a lot, right? Like because I think that the prevailing sentiment is right now as we speak, especially in 2025, probably a better product. Freestyle is probably a better product, but folk style makes all the money, so it's not going to change, right? Like we kind of
No.
like, so, but yeah, I would, me, I tend to agree with you, but either way.
Well, how about we pose this before you leave? What
All
if
right.
the rest of the world did folk style and we never did freestyle? How interesting
there
would
you
that
go.
be?
Yeah, and we never did folk style. Yeah, I don't know. If I see like by like April, no, excuse me, by like February, if I see one more mat return, I like want to puke. It's just stop.
I tell people, even the parents who are like newer to me, they're like, so like when are we gonna get back? I was like, we will do bottom in August. It's
Yeah.
March. I understand it's the end of March, but August we'll be back on bottom. If you ask me about getting out, I'm gonna ask you to lay on your stomach and start pulling with your hands, trying to roll the lock. Until then.
Yeah, it's for sure. For sure. I'd almost whatever. All right. Mario, thank you so much for coming on, man. Where can people find I don't know if you want them getting a hold of you on Instagram or what, but where can people find you if they want to talk to you about getting some shot docs made?
Yeah, so you could follow my personal, it's on Instagram, the shot doc. You could follow our page, Shot Docs Wrestle, on Instagram. I'm sure we can post a website and stuff. But if you're really interested in maybe a personalized, you'd have to sell some shoes, but a personalized setup, definitely reach out to us. Reach out to me. And if you have teams that are interested, that's something we're looking at a little bit as well. So give us a shout and we'll tell you about our process and see if it's something that might work for you.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you, Mike. Okay.
Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.